Welcome to the first CatBrain Talks. My name is Nicole and I'm the CEO of CatBrain. I'm here with Dr. Fofi Constantinidou and Dr. Iulia Solomou, our founder and chief research officer, respectively. We started hosting these seminars because we have a lot of commonly asked questions about CatBrain, and we do have two experts on our team. So we hope you enjoy. So, Fofi, you've spent over 30 years in cognitive rehabilitation. What is one problem that never really changed, even as research advanced?
Thank you for this question. One of the problems that continue to exist is that cognitive rehabilitation is fragmented. And as a result, millions of people around the world don't receive the rehabilitation they need in order to be productive and in order to be able to return to the activities that are meaningful to them. And so often clinicians don't have access to science-based treatment methods. And what we are aiming to do with CatBrain is to bring quality cognitive rehabilitation that is science-based to everyone.
So if they don't have methods, if they're using fragmented methods, what does that mean? So what are they actually doing in practice, and why is that a problem?
It's not that they're using fragmented methods. It's also the problem is also that oftentimes patients don't receive enough rehabilitation, and so clinicians are called to do more, help their patients achieve more with less time.
I see.
And so having programs that allow clinicians to work systematically, to follow a hierarchical method, but then at the same time personalize the rehab is really important in order to help your patient achieve as much as possible.
And of course, due to that, the how rehab is fragmented, it impacts the continuity of the therapy.
Yes.
Which is very important to have continuity during your therapy process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that cognitive rehabilitation ends up being a very manual process. Why is that? That sounds like a big waste of time.
Yeah, I think there are a number of different reasons for that. One is that oftentimes therapy programs are created, but they don't take into consideration the needs of the patients or the needs of the clinicians. Also, it took a while for resources such as computers and digital types of equipment to make it into the mainstream clinics. Unlike AI that, within 2 years everybody's using it, it took 16 years for computers to make it into most of the households, for instance, and to have digital systems in clinical settings. But also sometimes is the face validity, that is, oftentimes clinicians, when they get their hands on different types of digital therapy tools, they may not meet their needs, or they may be too gamified for adult patients, or maybe the science behind it is not adequate, so they may not gain the clinician's confidence.
What about a fear of change? So that they already have their current working methods? They don't want,
it's a lot of habit if you think about it, because cognitive rehabilitation existed long before all those digital tools. So this manual work become a habit, and you feel more comfortable using it than trying to learn something new. But it's like that the research have been advanced through the years, so the infrastructure have to also be more advanced.
Well, and also every clinician through the years develops a toolbox of things that they use with their patients. And because their lives are very intense, their days are very busy, sometimes adopting something new may require the investment of time. And if the clinician doesn't see the need to invest the time, they might opt out as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for answering. Change is hard in healthcare. So why do you think clinicians are often skeptical of new technology, and what actually makes that skepticism justified?
I'll go first, I guess.
Sure, it's an open question.
You can go.
So there are a number of different reasons, I believe. One of it is loss of control.
That's an excellent point.
It's also the same in all demographics. It's not specifically towards clinicians, but more technology often feels like a lack of control.
Yeah, loss of control in terms of controlling the exercises, what comes next, controlling where does the data go, you know, these responses, where are they stored? And then also, sometimes also fear of technology as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if people are familiar using technology for their everyday life.
Yeah.
It's different when you use technology for delivering therapy services.
So that's when it would become valid skepticism.
And another point is, what if technology might replace me?
Yeah.
Which is a very valid point nowadays, if you think about
of course,
how the AI has expanded through the years. To this very short time, actually.
I don't see cognitive rehab as something that can be done without a human.
For sure.
Yeah.
But there are some online games that promote, encourage people to participate in order to exercise their brain, in the hopes that this will slow down aging or will improve cognitive function in young people, in middle-aged people, in older people, across the age span. So there are some things that are available online. Some are for pay, some are for free.
I assume you're referring to the Sudokus and the match memory, flip that card, flip this card, match the two objects kind of games?
Yeah, some of those. Yeah.
In fact, those often claim that they're cognitive rehabilitation, but they're not. Tell us a little bit about that.
Those are useful activities, and they're nice leisure activities, and we do encourage people to play different types of games, whether there are online computer games like memory and Sudoku or other table games. But we have to understand that cognitive rehabilitation is a process, it's a method. And so it matters the type of information you provide to your patient and when you provide that type of information. Also, it matters how you challenge your patient, how you incrementally make therapy tasks more difficult. So there are different ingredients to cognitive rehabilitation.
So when, how, and what something is introduced.
Very important. Very important. And how you interact and give feedback to your patient as well.
Rehabilitation is actually... it helps you regain functionality in your daily life, where those games helps you improve some skills that you may have.
Because they do something. I feel it. I have this booklet.
They're very nicely, and it's true. We encourage people to play those games, but it's not rehab. It's not about regaining functionality as rehab does it.
And perhaps a way to think about it too is that rehab is a process that takes time. It can occur in the clinic, but also it occurs in different aspects of our lives. And so what we do in therapy is important, and using therapy tools that are science-based and help the patient regain function. but also it's important for our patients to do things in their daily lives that stimulate their brain. And so those different types of games do that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But they don't substitute your formal rehabilitation.
So this is actually a cognitive rehab myth, then. That those
Actually, yeah, it is.
That those
That
sudokus and games are cognitive therapy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about more myths of cognitive rehab. I know there's a few that we already get as a team all the time. With your research or your experience, do you have anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think a big myth is the fact that cognitive rehab or rehab in general is what you do during a few weeks or a few months after an injury or a condition that affects the functioning of the brain. In fact, rehab is a lifelong process.
Do you think this misalignment comes from the sister physical therapy? Because physical therapy is a process that you do for a few months, and hopefully, if all is well, if you had broken your arm, you'll regain functionality of that arm, and because you're using your arm every day, you don't need to continue going to your physical rehab in most case scenarios. So do you think that misalignment might come from that?
Well, for sure, physical therapy is concrete. People can see it more readily versus an injury to the brain or a condition that affects the functioning of the brain, even if it's not an injury. But actually, even in a physical therapist will argue that, well, you continue to improve and do rehab by doing your everyday functioning.
Yeah.
So similarly, cognitive rehab, yes, you have exercises you do as part of your cognitive therapy in your rehab center or in the private office of your cognitive rehab therapist. But in addition to that, and when that process is complete, you continue to improve by doing activities in your daily life.
Yeah.
The other myth, if I may add, is that cognitive rehab, whatever you have gained as part of therapy, that it stops there. Whereas there are times in a patient's life where people go back for additional therapy.
I see. Yeah.
Can I add another myth?
Yes.
But from the perspective of the therapist, I will say.
Yeah.
Is that the manual documentation, and this takes us back to a previous conversation actually, the manual documentation of the progress preserves the clinical depth.
Oh yeah.
That writing more notes somehow means better planning and better care, but actually it's not.
I feel like we had that in school with like professors saying things and you had to write down exactly every word in the same format that they said it.
And somehow this will help you learn more. I think this is another myth. In reality, the depth in clinical care is to see patterns and to track those patterns somehow more efficiently. And instead of re-describing the same session every time. So I think this is another myth that
I really like that.
There's another myth.
Oh, okay.
From the patient's perspective or the therapist?
The therapist perspective. It's more of a debate that existed for a while. It's this issue of remedial versus compensatory.
Oof, in layman's terms?
Yes. So remedial is when you're doing like hierarchical and sequential types of exercises. Compensatory is when you say, okay, I need to give people the tools to take care of daily business because I don't have enough therapy sessions to do things. So for instance, if somebody has problem remembering, I'm going to teach them how to take notes, either using their smartphone or a notepad, to help their memory, versus teaching them strategies to remember better. Okay.
What could be a strategy to remember better?
Oh, for instance, like if you have to remember five things, to associate them. Like if you don't have a paper and pencil to write them down, or if you don't have a phone to dictate the 5 things, to maybe think about, okay, I need to go to the store and I need to remember 5 things. Then you try and make a story with them, for instance.
When I pack, I start from top to bottom. So I think about my routine and how everything is functioning, and so I start from top to bottom and I make a story. Yeah.
So that's an internal strategy versus a compensatory strategy like a paper and pencil. But the truth of the matter, in rehab, you have to do both. So you have to teach those internal strategies and help the brain think and organize better. So when you have to pack, you think in an organized manner as to how you're gonna pack. But at the same time, you also need to make sure people have the tools for everyday activities. So you also spend time to teach about compensatory strategies and use their smartphones more efficiently, for instance, to help help them.
Interesting. And you said this is a debate.
Well, it was a debate for a while, we shouldn't be doing remedial because the patient still doesn't know how to use compensatory strategies. But the truth of the matter, you need to be doing both.
Okay, I was going to say that the way I understand the core mission of also CapBrain is us making sure people gain some form of self-efficacy back in their life, right? So if a simple tool as use your phone to make your grocery list is going to allow somebody to go grocery shopping and not get frustrated and lost in the supermarket and not spend 6 hours there, that's part of it, right?
Well, I mean, the CapBrain doesn't focus on teaching compensatory strategies. It's more of a remedial approach, so it focuses more on retraining the brain on how to think so that they can use strategies. So, for instance, I want to remember 5 things and I don't have a paper and pencil. What else can I do in order to remember those 5 things?
I see.
So, CapBrain helps you strategize. More.
This retraining of the brain through CapBrain helps you be more productive and think all of those solutions. It helps you with the problem solving skills.
So for instance, I have a bouquet of flowers and I don't have a vase. How can I preserve them?
It sounds very silly, let's say, that somebody cannot think another way of solving this problem. Where can I put those flowers if I don't have a vase?
I mean, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
The first thing that comes to mind, a bottle or
Yours?
a cup.
I would
First
think,
thing.
I would think like a sturdy, depending on the size of the bouquet, because you have to think of the size of the bouquet, how big it is and how heavy it is. Then I would think of a very sturdy, big mug or cup.
That's so interesting because my first thought was to take a wet paper towel and aluminium paper and wrap it around.
Oh wow!
That was my first reaction. For some reason, I was like, eliminate all vase, cups. Interesting.
It is interesting. But you see, we can think many ways how to preserve those flowers. But it's not that easy for some people to do that. Due to these difficulties.
Cognitive impairments.
Exactly. Cognitive impairments.
The other thing too is that when we are faced with a problem, there's an emotional aspect to it. So for instance, am I pressed, with time to solve this problem? Is it creating distress in some way, etc.? And so being able to apply a more methodological approach to solving problems, it also requires that you monitor your emotions as well, so you can think clearly.
Yeah.
And you think of the different variables. So, back to our flower example, how long do I need to keep those flowers?
Yeah.
Is it just to transport them for 30 minutes, or is it overnight, et cetera, et cetera. So you kind of have to think of the different variables and make decisions.
Yeah. So. Interesting. Other myths?
Other myths. So we talked about, that manual is better because it gives more depth. We talked about the fact that
you don't need therapy once it's done.
Yes, and that it's also better to give it earlier than later, which is true. It's better to give it earlier, but it doesn't mean that later has no value. That it's a continuous process, a lifelong process. For most people, it doesn't stop.
I think this with the earlier and the late rehab, it's a very interesting myth that it's a very recent actually myth that if you pass this window at the early stage of a brain injury, let's say, and you haven't received rehab during this window, you might not be as functional.
But what actually happens to the brain? So something happens to somebody, they get into a car crash, and then now they need to go to cognitive rehab because they just notice that they're not the same, or their family's members notice. And if indeed they go for help and they do not receive help, what happens to that brain? Because that brain is just sitting there, not exercising, not moving.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because indeed there is a window of opportunity where after an injury, the brain goes through a process on its own, okay, to regain function and reorganization. So that's called spontaneous recovery. So people will get better because the brain tries to reorganize and regain function.
Like the body does when you get sick.
Exactly.
Tries to get better.
Exactly. So capturing that window in rehab is very critical. And research does show that that is important. So there's no doubt that that's important. The other thing that happens is that, again, we're talking about cognitive and neuropsychological rehabilitation that involves cognition and emotion. And so helping the person adapt to the changes and to maybe the level of disability that results because of the injury is very important. So during this process, it's critical that the patient receives quality cognitive rehabilitation, but also other services as well, such as psychological services and emotional support,
of course,
and physical therapy, because most people with in an accident that results in a brain injury may also have physical and other other needs. So that window is very important. But what we have been able to show in our research, and others have as well, is that even people in the chronic phases, they can
continue to
show progress. And so in our most recent study that we are working now to submit for publication, where we use CatBrain, we saw that people who are in the very chronic phases after their brain injury,
2 years after the injury,
2-3 years after their injury, they show improvement.
Using
they show
CatBrain.
They show gains. So that's very exciting. Because it tells you that the brain is still plastic. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Good answers. Thank you. And that concludes today's episode. Thank you for watching, and leave your comments and questions for us so we can make another video soon.